Hello, and welcome to Musician Talk with your guest host, Steve Jennings. Today we're interviewing Pauline Jennings, the actual host of Musician Talk, for our New Year's Mixin' It Up special. Full disclosure, we've been married for 20 years. So I do know a little bit about Pauline, but today is a day that she can share some of her creativity with you all. I have witnessed firsthand Pauline as an actor, artist, podcast host, theater director, and producer continue to develop her talents each year. Specifically, the last couple of years have given us Drive-In Live, Catastrophe 1 and 2, Musician Talk, theater radio dramas, and a resurgence of music and singing. Today is our opportunity to learn about Pauline's musical journey. So let's get to it. Welcome to your Musician Talk show, Pauline.
Hi, Steve. How are you doing?
I'm great.
Thank you for doing this.
It's my joy. It's my pleasure.
Good.
Thank you. So, Pauline, let's get going. Let's dive right in.
All right.
Tell us a little bit about your musical journey.
Thank you. Okay. So, first of all, I was born and raised in New Prague, Minnesota, right down the road. And I was, from an early age, interested in performing. I would put on shows. There was a shelf in front of our fireplace that was just deep enough for a 7-year-old girl to get up there, put the music on the speakers in the living room, and do a show for my mother. And I would sing Helen Reddy songs. I would sing. My progressive roots started because I listened to Arlo Guthrie and Woody Guthrie and sing along to that. So I would put on these shows for my mother, and I would get a lot of great feedback. I started piano lessons, sometime around probably 10 or 11 or 12. Started dancing lessons about the same time. Then in 7th grade, started flute and dropped piano, and then picked up piano and dropped piano and picked up piano throughout the years. Not enough. That's probably my biggest regret musically, is that I didn't continue with that. But then in 8th grade, this is a big thing in my life, is the high school was going to put on Sound of Music, and you have to be ninth grade or older to be in the show. But because they were doing Sound of Music, they needed kids for the kids of the show. And so I auditioned for it. I did not get the role of one of the kids. However, I was cast as a dancer and singer because I danced better than most people in the high school, because I had been taking lessons. So my friend and I, who I would actually take lessons with, we both got cast. And so we're in this show with all these, upperclassmen. And it was quite the experience. Loved it and did not stop after that. I auditioned for everything that I could possibly audition for. I was in one-act plays, I was in straight plays, and my favorite musicals. Culminating in my senior year, I was Dolly in Hello, Dolly, which is probably my favorite role that I have ever done. And that's kind of sad to say because that was so many years ago. But I loved it, and I want to do it again. Now that I'm the right age, I really do. So let's see what happened next. I didn't sing or act at all in college. I don't know why, but I didn't. I was going for my degree, and the other things kind of fell to the wayside until I moved to St. Cloud soon after I graduated from college. I got a BS in elementary education. When I moved to St. Cloud, I got involved with a theater company called the New Tradition Theater Company. And boy, that was a huge learning experience, mostly as an actress, somewhat as a singer. But I was working with pros, from the directors to the producers to all the actors I was working with. And so I learned so much from all of them and continued to act for the 7 years I lived in St. Cloud. Professionally, which is pretty cool that I was allowed to have that chance to do that. Some of my favorite roles there was one of the Alices in My Name is Alice. I loved that. It was a diverse cast that had astounding talent. And I also had a chance to work with Sanford Moore for the first time, who you ended up years later playing with in More by Four and at his church. So that's pretty cool. Then I moved to Northfield in 1994. I did a few shows with the Guild. Then I met Lucy Liu and Pam Roth, and we created a band called Dame Station.
It was a trio.
And we played regionally Maybe some of you out there saw us. And we wrote songs, and we recorded an album with Dame Station called Not One of Many, which you played drums on.
Yes.
Yes. And that was a great experience. And then I was in a couple more bands over the years. Some of the same musicians, but always with Pam Roth, who I sing with. We like to sing together. We sound good together. It's like we're related. We blend so well. One of those bands was Waking Avalon. Another one was Late Arrival, and we'll hear some songs that I did with them. I can't remember what year we stopped with Late Arrival. We stopped playing with Late Arrival. But
early 2000s, I think.
Wow, that's a long time ago. Feels like it wasn't that long ago. But since then, I have been in a few more shows with the Guild. I've produced shows there. I've directed, and I sang in Catastrophe 1 and 2, which I also produced. And I continue to sing, produce, and direct to this day. In fact, I put together Drive-In Live in September. It was a drive-in concert for people because of COVID. And it was a chance to finally perform again. So that takes us to today. How was that?
Wow. Fantastic. I do have a question about your acting time in St. Cloud. What specific aspects of acting did you learn, and from whom?
It's a really good question. I think it was probably spread amongst everybody I worked with, actually, from the musicians too, in the musicals I was in. But I learned, probably the biggest thing I learned is acting is reacting. It's not all about me. It's more about the other people on the stage and what they're doing and my reaction to it. And I also learned about motivation and intent, that you do some homework for a role that you're cast in to find out why they want what they want, and thus say what they say to get what they want. How to, I guess, delve into your character so that your reactions are appropriate for the role that you're playing in regard to everybody else on stage. Does that make sense?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Here's something. If you think about what you're doing with your hands, you are out of the moment and you're no longer in the show. And then I'm Pauline thinking, what's Pauline doing with her hands? And because a lot of actors talk about this, a lot of people, when they want to do a speech, what do I do with my hands? What do I do with my hands? Because you feel awkward. And as soon as you start thinking about those things, you take yourself out of the role and out of the moment. And what's so, so important on stage is to be absolutely 100%, as much as you can, being in the moment. And I learned that.
So there's a little bit of a difference between acting as a character or being this person. So is that what you mean by being in the moment? Being this person?
Embodying that role. I'm still Pauline. I can't get rid of her. There's no way to get rid of Pauline on stage.
We don't want to get rid of her.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You are doing what you're doing in the moment, and you're 100% responding to what's going on. And that's key. It's responding. Everything that you do is a response to whatever's happening in the moment. And if you're not in the moment, you can't respond.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, good. Another question comes to mind when you mentioned moving to Northfield and you started acting in Northfield Arts Guild productions. First, what were some of those first plays that you were involved with?
I was in Kiss Me Kate, and I was in Steel Magnolias. Yeah, I think that's it. And then I took a break for many years. And then that break also included being in those bands. Of course, I had no time to be rehearsing for a show when I was, playing out and rehearsing for these bands that I was in. And then when I came back to the Guild, the first show I think I did when I got back was Jessie, which is a melodrama, which I fell in love with. And then we did those a couple more times through Lockwood Theater Company. So, and that's fun because you get to sing during that. It's probably the best ballad ever. I got to sing in that show for alto, and there aren't many for us. So,
can we talk a little bit about the use of the voice in two components, in musical theater and live performance?
I'm not a technically great singer. I'm not a powerhouse. I can't hit those huge notes. There's a lot of not drawbacks, but limitations to my voice. And I understand those, and that's fine. I have a good voice, not a great voice. Okay. So I bring, perhaps it's different from most singers that you see that are in bands, is my musical theater background. And so I bring emotion. I sing the words in a more maybe expressive way than other singers that you would see that don't have that musical theater experience. My comfort level on the stage was immediate, and I feel good there. I feel like I belong there.
You said this is the first role where I really was able to have an alto song, was in Jessie.
Right, power ballad.
A power ballad
right.
for an alto singer.
Right. In fact, as Dolly and Hello Dolly, I sang everything down an octave. So it's hello, Danny. Well, hello, Manny. Down there. So anyway, yes, it's hard to find those roles, those lead roles. Often it's the sidekicks that are the altos.
What was the connection between you and Pam as singers that made that work?
Pam is a soprano, and she's a great harmonizer. And so she can hit all the hot stuff up there in the sky, and I can get down really low to the low notes. And so we can cover this wide range by switching off leads when we're singing the song, and then also we can come together because our voices blend so well. We were lucky to find each other. We harmonize throughout almost all the singing that we do. We do some solo pieces, and in fact, the song that I chose, or the songs that I chose to play in this first section, there's a solo there, and then you'll see the differences between our voices and the harmonies.
Okay, well, let's get into that. This is the demo piece.
Right. So I have to explain this.
Yeah,
so,
tell us about that.
All right. So bands put together demos. Quite often they are not full length songs. So you'll just maybe do a verse and a chorus, and a bridge and a chorus, but not the whole song. Maybe a minute to 2 minute part of the song, but then you put a bunch of songs together so that in the course of 6 minutes, a bar owner or an agent can listen through there and see your variety, see your range, and hear how you attack different types of music. And so I decided for this to show our audience my range, some of my range, and this is 4 songs, 2 from the demo that we did as Waking Avalon, and 2 as Late Arrival, which is the last band that I was in.
Okay, should we listen to these first and then talk about the people playing?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Let's see if you can hear the emotion in some of these tunes. Okay.
Okay, here is Pauline Jennings with Waking Avalon and with Late Arrival.
asked him, he said, how do you feel about me? My mind was racing, I was pacing, but the words just wouldn't come. There was only one thing left to do. Feel it coming on. Some days you gotta dance. Live it up when you get the chance. When the world doesn't make no sense and you're feeling just a little too tense, gotta loosen up those chains and dance. You gotta loosen up those chains and dance. Come on, loosen up those chains and dance. Tell me, did the wind sweep you off your feet? Did you finally get the chance to dance along the light of day? Head back to the Milky Way and tell me, did you sail across the sun? Did you make it to the Milky Way to see the lights all faded and that heaven's overrated? And tell me, did you fall for a shooting star, one without a permanent scar? And did you miss me while you were looking for yourself? Na 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 na. Did you finally get the chance to dance along the light of day? Did you fall for the shooting star? Fall for the shooting star. And lonely looking for yourself out
You're listening to Musician Talk, and we have turned the tables, so to speak. Your usual host and my wife, Pauline Jennings, is being interviewed by me, Steve Jennings, on this New Year's Mixin' It Up special. You just heard a demo mix of cover songs recorded by Waking Avalon and Late Arrival, two groups Pauline sang with in the early 2000s. So I've heard these songs before.
Yes, many times.
And
you played on the last two.
Yes.
Yes.
And I really, really think you sound fantastic.
Thanks, honey.
That's my gut reaction every time I hear these.
Oh, I couldn't ask for more. Thank you.
So who played on these songs?
All right. So the first one, At Last, which is one of my favorite songs to sing, I haven't sung in a while, is just me and Dan Thayer, wonderful guitar player. Then the next one is Landslide, and you hear Pam singing with the harmony on that. And Dan Thayer's playing guitar again, and Steve Jennings, that's you, are playing djembe. And then this next song was the Late Arrival song. This was a full band. So Waking Avalon was anywhere from 3 to 4 or 5 people, depending on who was playing on what gig. So the second two songs, Some Days You Gotta Dance and Drops of Jupiter, were by the band Late Arrival. And there are 7 members in that band, including me and Pam Roth, Brian Forrester, Dan Thayer, Jim May, Doug Meadow from Faribault. Some of you may know him and have heard him before. He's a great piano player. And Steve Jennings on the drums.
All wonderful people and a privilege to work with.
Absolutely. But I thought you were going to say, what do you mean that's 7 musicians? That's 5 musicians and 2 singers. A joke I just love.
Right. We all love the musician/vocalist joke. Well, I mean, it's like there are 2 singers, 4 musicians, and a drummer.
That's right. And how do you know the stage is level? You see drool is coming out of both sides of the drummer's mouth. Did I say that right?
You did. Yes, you did.
We'll just leave it there. How about that?
I'd like to ask the question, how does music interact with your life on an emotional level?
You know, people say this term, and I'm kind of over it, but it is so appropriate, which is the phrase, it feeds my soul. And it truly does. I always feel better for doing it, for rehearsing, for performing, for finding songs, everything involved with singing and music, for me, feeds me. So, you know, you go through life and you go through a day even, and you get drained, and these things drain out of you. And to have a way to fill yourself back up that's healthy is it's precious. It's a beautiful, precious thing.
That, I think, is a terrific segue into our second song. You talked about when you're feeling down and you feel blue, for example. And you've written a song entitled Bluer, which I believe I may have had a hand in developing or instigating.
Not developing, instigating, certainly.
How did that come about?
You broke up with me. I don't think that there's anything more that needs to be said. So when we were dating, Steve broke up with me a couple times. He didn't think he needed a woman in his life, certainly not a wife. And so when I had never written a song before, but of course, this is another trope that, deep despair brings out the creative juices when you're for songwriters. And it certainly did for me. And so I was bluer than I had ever been. My compatriots, Lucy and Pam, had been writing songs that we were going to be putting on this album, and I wanted to contribute something as well. Although we all contributed to all the songs, but the seed and most of the song came from one person. Mm-hmm. And this one came from me. And I think that all you need to do is listen to the words. Now that you know where it came from, you'll know exactly how I was feeling.
Well, let's take a listen to Bluer by Dame Station.
Thought I could be since you walked out on me. I'm bluer than I thought I could be since you left me. I never thought it could be this bad. I've been left before and I never was so sad. It must have been the real thing this time, but not for you, 'cause you walked down the line. I'm bluer than I thought I could be. I remember, oh, how you once looked at me, fire burning in your eyes so passionately. What could have happened to put out the flame? All I know it's a crying shame, a crying shame. Just yesterday, I long for the sparks that have gone astray. I reached for you, you turned away. You stepped on my hopes and left me feeling betrayed. I'm bluer than I thought I could be since you walked out on me. I'm bluer than I thought I could be since you left me. Since you walked out on me.
Welcome back to Musician Talk. This is Steve Jennings interviewing my wife, Pauline Jennings. You just heard the original tune Bluer from the album Not One of Many, created by the group Dame Station, made up of Pauline, Lucy Liu, and Pam Roth. Well, I am the not host. You are the hot host.
Well said. Well said, honey. Okay, so Dame Station, yes, we did this album in 2000, and what a joy that was. We got an incredible roster of musicians to help us out with this album because at the time we were just a trio. We didn't have a full band. We recorded it up at Wild Sound and had so much input from you, from Craig Wasner, and that's Craig in the beginning of that song. And there's a little nugget of story about the beginning of the song, too. We were rehearsing it in our studio, and we didn't really have a beginning to the song, or I didn't, and Craig was there, but I knew I wanted piano on it. And so he said, well, Pauline, what do you want me to do? How do you want me to start this song off? And I said, okay, well, how about if you play something completely out of time, very arpeggiated, beautiful, sweet, and then at some point, when you feel it, go into the groove. And that's exactly what he did, and it was perfect the first time he did it, I swear. It was just, he's a genius. Craig, thank you,
Great
Craig.
musical instinct.
So yeah, that was Bluer.
Do you have any idea what makes the music emotional for you? Is it the text or the melody or the underlying accompaniment?
So you can have all those elements there. You can have a great voice technically. You can have great musicians. You can have great lyrics. But I listen for the emotion that we've talked about already quite a bit that I hear in voices. And that comes about by not singing notes as they're valued. And then there's bending of notes, and bending adds emotion. So if you're singing at last, or you can say at last, and you scoop up to that note, and there's something that provides tension and then release. That's a good way to put it. I'm looking for songs that provide tension and release throughout the song, and maybe one big build to tension and release. And that provides satisfaction for me as a listener and as a singer.
Excellent. Excellent. In what musical or theater or performance scenarios do you find yourself able to be the most creative?
I don't think it's on a scale of most to least. I think it's all different. And when it comes to singing musically, there's a different kind of creativity that's going on there, and it's really hard for me to put my finger on it. There's less structure. I mean, you have the words to the song that you need to follow, but there's less structure in dictating how you do that than you have if you're embodying a character. So there's different ways of being creative in all those realms. And that's what I love about it. That's what I love about music and theater, is that you're constantly creating. Your mind is firing on all cylinders when you're in the zone and doing it.
We're at the point of the show where we will play your favorite game with the guests, entitled Best Gig, Worst Gig. Which one would you like to do first?
Worst.
Okay.
I want to end on a high note. This is thank you. This is hard to talk about, but I'm going to say it because we need to share our bad experiences too, because people can learn from them, and they can also take solace that it happens to everybody. So I was producing Catastrophe 2 that I was also directing, and I decided I wanted to do a couple songs during the show. I had bitten off more than I could chew, apparently, and got to memorizing the words for my song that I was doing, which was a very fast patter song. Too late. And I find that memorizing is way more difficult now than it was even 5-6 years ago. But I thought I had it memorized. And so we get to opening night, and show started with a bang, and I don't know if I was 2 or 3 songs in. It's called Semois, and talks about how great this night is, and it's funny. And I got about 3 lines in and absolutely blanked. So the lights are shining on me, the audience is in the dark, but I can still see all their faces, I swear. All going, and I had to leave the stage. In the middle of a show that I produced and directed, I had to say, I'm sorry, I can't remember the words, and I left. A lot of people thought it was a gimmick. They thought that this was planned. Thank God. But it wasn't. And so what we did, I went home that night. I was quite upset. And I decided that I still wanted to do the song. It fit in the layout of the show that I had done. I didn't want to just take it out. So I came up with this idea, because now I would really be nervous to step on that stage, and probably more likely to have blocks, because it would just be overwhelming. So I came up with this idea. Cosmo Esplin, who I work with on many things, is a young man in town. He's 13. He was 12 then, and he was helping stage manage and direct people. And I said, well, let's make this a bit. And so I had him write I wrote all the words down on huge cue cards. He came up before the song and said, I'm not supposed to do this, but I just want to tell you that the director, she's had a really hard time, and she's having a hard time memorizing. So I brought these, and he showed the cue cards, and then I came running up. No, Cosmo, you can't do this. It's just back and forth, pretend back and forth. Get off the stage, Cosmo. Nope, I'm not leaving. I'm staying right here with the cue cards. I said, okay, go ahead, fine. And then throughout the song, I'm using them more and more, and I'm the one taking down the cue cards so I can get to the next song. So we made it into a funny bit, and I was still able to do the song.
Nice.
So it was a save, but it was mortifying. It was absolutely mortifying.
You turned that mortifying experience into an opportunity for creative expression.
Yep. Yeah. I was happy to hit upon that, and it had to happen by the next night. So I called Cosmo, would you do this? And he was on board, as he always is.
Fantastic. Well, that worst gig that you had.
Best gig is next, Steve.
So I know what's next. So thank you for sharing that worst gig experience, Pauline. And tell us now about your best gig.
There are times in a musician's career, performer's career, artist's career, when you get into the zone so completely that you lose sight of kind of everything falls away. And it happens to a certain degree quite often when I'm on stage. But it doesn't happen in a completely enveloping way very often, or at least it hasn't for me, where the world just disappears. And that happened for me when we put together a benefit. We, meaning Dame Station, Pam, Lucy, and I put together a benefit after 9/11 to raise money for the families of the victims. We had the Over and Back Band there, Divers, if you all remember them, love them, and Dame Station. And at the last song, we had 2 drum sets on the stage to do a couple of the last big songs. Pam and I did a Faith Hill tune, and everything was just right. And I got into that zone, and it lasted all the way, because after that, we did America the Beautiful, and I started that song off, and I was already in that zone. I'll never forget it, because I almost felt like I was outside my body. It was so surreal, so beautiful. I couldn't sing anything wrong in this zone.
So this was at the Northfield High School Theater, right?
Yes, that's where we put it on.
And it was a packed house.
Oh, packed. Yes. I mean, I think anything that you do with the Over and Back Band and the Divers in town, you're gonna be able to sell it out.
But it really was an amazing performance.
It was.
I'd really like to thank you for being my guest today, Pauline. We learned a number of things about you that we didn't know before. Thank you for sharing your heart and soul with us. And we look forward to what the future may hold for Musician Talk in 2021.
I look forward to that too, Steve. And thanks so much for hopping on board and being part of this New Year's Mix It Up Musician Talk special.
Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Thank you so much to my husband, Steve Jennings, for sitting in as interviewer today in place of me. And thank you so, so, so much to all of you out there for listening to Musician Talk on KYMN. Have a terrific day.